It's the first of Muharram, right? Al-Qaf. Qayrawani. Qayrawani is from Tunis. It's from Tunisia. City in Tunisia. Yeah. Yep. Gotta put that in the plug. Try not to lean on that wire because the speaker. It has a short in the wire for the speaker. Was it what do we say? First of Muharram. What lesson is it?
72.
All right. Huh? This is so right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلاة ربي وسلامه ورحمته وبركاته على ذاك النبي الكريم نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. As we continue this tremendous treatise by the great Imam Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani, rahimahullah, the one who died 386 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. For the time now, 7:44 p.m., Thursday, June the 26th, which agrees with the first of the year for the Islamic date. As we know, this is the beginning of the year for the Muslims. This is the beginning of the year, where it's considered the first of Muharram, on this evening of Masa al-Khamis, of the evening of Thursday. But the date now, like we said, of the year is 1446 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We were in the midst of discussing the affairs of Iman. Excuse me, I'm almost on my page. The affairs connected with Iman and the importance of its definition. As you'll find that a lot of the Muslims in these type of matters have fell short in regard to either forgetting about its importance or falling into errors in regards to it due to the fact that they became far away from proper knowledge. Because you'll find, everyone, that we live in days where the affairs of completing books in a proper way has been abandoned. The people now, they embark upon what's for the moment, or quick lectures, or little 5-minute clips, and the likes of that, which as a result of it, the effect of it has impacted us in a negative way where knowledge has become weak. So as a result of it, everyone, we still take the initiative to now enlighten the Muslims so they can return back to what will give them victory over their enemies. And the only way that one can attain true victory is by being educated first. The combat of knowledge is the best form of defense against the devil and his minions. People think it's weaponry, equipment. No, it's not. The first thing is ilm. First thing is proper knowledge if one truly wants to combat the enemy or our enemy, which is the shaitan and his minions. If they truly want to be victorious over him, be triumphant and dominating over him and his minions, then they have to be properly educated. So we were discussing the matter pertaining, where's my page? We talked about the affairs of Iman and the ta'rif of it, which is very important that we mentioned. We talked about some of the evidences and proofs in regards to this matter. As we look at the definition, everyone, just like flip my page. Don't be surprised if certain people goes and then you can have access now where people can go into your system. Sometimes it looks like people goes on my phone and system and flips the page. I'll be like, that's not my page. It does. Like somebody was investigating my system. Well, you know, the feds are all around us, if you know what I mean. That's all I'm gonna say. Excuse me, everyone. Here it is, right here. Good. So you'll find that in regards to what the great Imam was mentioning for proper faith, you go back to the ta'rif, as we said. He said, أن الإيمان قول باللسان وإخلاص بالقلب وعمل بالجوارح يزيد بزيادة الأعمال وينقص بنقصها فيكون فيها النقص وبه الزيادة لا يكمل قول الإيمان إلا بالعمل ولا قول وعمل إلا بنية ولا قول وعمل ونية إلا بموافقة السنة وأنه لا يكفر أحد بذنب من أهل القبلة. So like we mentioned the ta'rif, and that's the actual definition of it. And like we mentioned, we were going to state the different groups that oppose this, because we know from our proper methodology is to bring the opposing groups that oppose the definition. So a person can avoid it. I just flipped again. That's strange. Hold up for 1 second, everyone. My page flipped again. جيد الحمد لله. Jayd. So we were mentioning the deviant sects that oppose this definition. So number one, if you look at the first part, what does it say? That Iman is qawlun bil lisan. That is Iman, a statement with the tongue. What opposes that from the groups is those who say that Iman or person does not have to utter it. They do not have to utter it. You'll find that was a deviant sect that mentioned that they say what suffices of Iman is just mere ma'rifah. What suffices in faith is just having knowledge about Allah. So that's from the deviant sects that oppose this definition. If you want to go back, let's start with the affair of i'tiqad first, even though that has in it the affairs pertaining to nifaq. But let's start with i'tiqad. So he said that Iman is statement with the tongue, sincerity with the heart. Like we said, from the deviant sects, number one, there's the sect from the Jahmiyyah that say what suffices for the validity of faith is mere ma'rifah, mere just having knowledge of Allah. Not having true Iman, but just having knowledge about Allah. From the greatest of examples of those who fell into this type of deviation is our enemy, Shaitan. May Allah give us refuge from his evil. وَمِن نَفْثِهِ وَهَمْزِهِ وَنَفْخِهِ. May Allah give us refuge from his madness, and his blowing, and his tying of the knots. You'll find that the Shaitan has ma'rifah. And despite of that, that did not suffice. Because of his disobedience and deviation in creed and all those other matters and atrocities that he fell into, and as a result, he became from the accursed. But we know from the greatest of those who had knowledge about Allah is who? Iblis himself. Iblis, the devil. The devil had knowledge about Allah, his names, his attributes, and that he deserves to be worshipped. And you'll find that the devil had knowledge of the rububiyyah, the lordship of Allah. Absolutely. You'll find that those ayats are mentioned in the book of Allah, that the shaitan had knowledge of Allah. He was one of the most knowledgeable of Allah. He had knowledge of the rububiyyah of Allah, the uluhiyyah of Allah, and the asma wa sifat of Allah. And despite of that, mere knowledge of Allah did not suffice unless he acted upon it, and he didn't. He disobeyed Allah in a manner that was some form of deviation in his belief. As a result of it, he became from the accursed, from the rajim, or the mal'oon, or the la'een, or the tarid, from those who became rejected and considered an outcast from Allah. So the point we're trying to mention is just mere ma'rifah based upon the group called the Jahmiyyah does not suffice for Iman. Just to have knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not enough. There has to be something extra in regards to just mere ma'rifah, mere knowledge, which is true embracement of the faith, of the revelation that Allah has sent down and acting in accordance with it. So that's the first group, is the Jahmiyyah. The Jahmiyyah oppose this definition here. They oppose this definition by just saying mere ma'rifah of Allah suffices. And we said that's not enough. That's not enough, as we said. So keep that in mind. So that's the first group. The second group of those who oppose this ta'rif is the munafiqun, the hypocrites. The hypocrites, the munafiqun. The hypocrites are from those, like we said, that they display knowledge. So what they do in this particular instance, what do the munafiqun do, everyone? They display faith outwardly, but they disbelieve in it what? Inwardly. So based upon that, where was the opposition of this definition here? Where? In belief. I'tiqad. In i'tiqad. So belief is important, and if a person rejects correct faith, they become from the munafiqun. They become from the hypocrites. And like we said, the punishment or the consequences of the hypocrites are great. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us, you and us, or grant us and you, refuge from hypocrisy. And whether it be hypocrisy of the belief or hypocrisy of the actions, whether it be hypocrisy of belief or hypocrisy of the actions. And hypocrisy of the actions is also great, even though it doesn't raise to the level of i'tiqad of belief. But all of it is great. And one does not want to die having a trait of hypocrisy. The trait of hypocrisy are plentiful. There are many. For example, lying is a trait of hypocrisy. From them is what? What do we know the hadith? What's the second? إذا حدث كذب وإذا وعد excuse me, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying وإذا وعد أخلف وإذا اؤتمن خان وإذا عاهد غدر وإذا خاصم فجر. The second is, for example, إذا وعد أخلف. If he promises, he does not what? أخلف. He doesn't carry it out. He doesn't execute his promise. He does not execute or fulfill his promise. And if he's given a trust or a pact, whether it be verbally or whether he be something of a secret or someone confided or someone give you his property or someone give you his money, all those are different forms of amanat. And if he's put in trust of something, he's what? He's treacherous, or he betrays it. And in another narration it says, وَإِذَا عَاهَدَ غَدَرَ وَإِذَا خَصَمَ فَجَرَ. And if he's given a covenant or he makes a pact, he's also treacherous. He'll break it without you knowing it. It's almost like someone said they're going to give you an amana or will give you peace, and as soon as you turn your back, they stab you in it. That's not from our religion, to be that way. That is considered ghadar. Ghadar is also something tremendous in our religion. And this is something that I think a lot of us need to work on these days and times. وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرَ. And if he argues or disputes, he becomes very, 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 very aggressive, evil, and wicked. إِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرَ. Says anything out of their mouth. The most important thing is that I what? Destroy you. I don't care about your feelings. I'm saying what I'm doing to destroy you. That is from a trait of hypocrisy, everyone. It's from a trait of hypocrisy. And there's more traits than just that. People think it's just on that hadith. There's more. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in his book, there's so many different ayat. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ إِيش قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the hypocrites, that if they stand for the prayer, they stay out of what? Laziness. That's also from the traits of the hypocrites. And they do not remember Allah much. وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Another trait of the hypocrites, for example, is they play both sides of the fence. They have two faces. That's another form of hypocrisy. That they play both sides of the fence, and everyone knows that in Surah Al-Baqarah in the second page. As we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in that book from what did the hypocrites used to do? If they went to the believers, قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ اللَّهُ يَسْتَهْزِئُ بِهِمْ وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. Second page, Surah Al-Baqarah, right at the end. He says if they go to the people believe, they say, we're with you. And then if they go to their shayateen, they say, we're with you. Verily, we make mockery of those who believe. What does that show? That they're what? They're two-faced. That's also from the traits of hypocrisy. It's two-faced. Also from a trait of hypocrisy is affairs of jihad. Affairs of jihad and not going out to what? Fight, or at least having the niyyah. We're not talking about an innovative, satanic, sadistic, innovative jihad. We're not talking about what we see today. We're talking about actual, pure, proper legislative one. As we know the hadith of the Prophet he said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يُجَاهِدُ وَلَمْ يُحَدِّثْ نَفْسَهُ بِجِهَادِ مَاتَ عَلَى شُعْبَةٍ مِنَ النِّفَاقِ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَغْزُو وَلَمْ يُحَدِّثْ نَفْسَهُ بِالْغَزْوِ مَاتَ عَلَى شُعْبَةٍ مِنَ النِّفَاقِ. Whoever does not go out or set out to fight, and he does not even have himself to think about it, he will die upon a branch of hypocrisy. So those are different types of others. Even though this hadith states different traits of hypocrisy, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and you refuge from it. But however, there's something that's greater than that. All those affairs we just mentioned, there's something greater than that, which is nifaq of i'tiqad, of belief, where the person doesn't even believe in Islam at all. But they go in the ranks within them in order to blend in, just to attain its merits and its benefits. Just to attain its what? Its merits and its benefits of it. If I blend in with the Muslims, I could get some form of benefit. And that's what the hypocrites used to do. When the Muslims became dominant and strong, they blended in order just to merely have some type of what? Gain, worldly. When the Muslims became dominant, superior and strong within the lands, they wanted to blend in. And they wanted to also play both sides of the fence, because you'll find that they kept secret disbelief within their hearts. And they rejected Iman. And as a result of it, like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about them, they will be in the lowest part of hell. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So that goes against this definition here. That goes against what, everyone? This definition. Where what hasn't been fulfilled? I'tiqad. Good. The third group that opposes this definition is the Murji'ah. People of Irja', as we talked about. The people of Irja'. We said the people of Irja', where do they fall into in regards to this definition, or opposing it, everyone? Where? In actions. Good. The people of Irja', you have the people who are extremists from amongst them, where they do not believe that actions is from faith at all. Where they do not believe that actions is from faith at all. They totally what? Removed it. And you'll find that is carried out in the statement where, everyone? In the statement of the Muslims currently, where you'll find that they say, I don't have to do such and such, faith is here. You'll find I don't have to pray, faith is here. Yeah, if you want to tell the sister, why don't you cover fear Allah and wear hijab? I don't have to do that, faith is here. Brother, why don't you grow your beard? Practice the sunnah. Allah has obliged upon us to practice Islam inwardly and outwardly, both. Oh, I don't have to do that, faith is here. Oh, why don't you fast the Ramadan, month of Ramadan? Oh, Allah is all forgiving, faith is here. So not only did they fall into one affair, they fell into something else. When the person says, Allah is Ghafur Rahim, faith is here, they fell into two things. They fell into Irja', affair of Irja', which we're talking about now, which is to remove actions from faith. In addition, they also fell into something called al-aman min makrillah, feeling secure from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where Allah prohibited that in the Quran, to feel secure from the punishment of Allah. Especially in the affairs that are mandatory to carry out on a daily basis. So they fell into two affairs that are what? In opposition to the belief system of the Muslims, which is to feel secure from the punishment of Allah, and at the same time they fell in what they call what? Irja'. Irja', where they remove actions from where? From Iman. Even though they don't say it frankly, they don't say, oh, I don't believe actions are from faith, but that's what they're what? Implementing. You're saying, I don't have to do that. I don't have to pray 5 times today. I can pray 2. Where did you get that from? Well, Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Allah knows my intention. Faith is here. You understand? So that form of deviation falls into going against this definition of that sound faith comprises of these what? Elements, which is, like we just said, statement with the tongue. We're going to talk about the group called the Karramiyah. The Karramiyah, who say that one does not even have to use their tongue. You don't have to say it at all. Which is also from the affairs that opposes this what? Definition here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But at any rate, we're focusing on the aspect of the amal, of actions. So you have the extremists from the people of Irja'. And you'll find that this type of deviation, the Christians fell into it. This type of deviation, even the Christians what? Fell into it. The Christians fell into irja. Right? You'll find they fell into the greatest form of irja. I don't have to do anything throughout the week. I go to Sunday. I believe Jesus died on the cross for my sins. I'm good. And I could do anything and everything in the dunya under the sun. And then next week, I'll just repent. I'm good. Keep it moving. Those affairs, what? All are forms of what? Irja. That's called irja. You don't believe actions is from faith at all. God knows what my intent. My intent is good. Even if you kill somebody, your intent is good. God knows my intent. I committed zina. Yeah, God knows my intent. I'll repent for it Sunday. I'm good. All of that is what? Irja. So, like we mentioned and said, everyone, these are the different types to let you know the virtues of our religion, how they teach us these affairs, so you can always stay on point. So you don't deviate going too far to the left or too far to the what? To the right. So that's the first type of irja, is where they completely remove actions from faith. Then you'll have another form, what they call murji'atul fuqaha, the second group of irja. The second group, or the second category of the murji'ah. So it's two groups. You have the extremists, the ghulu, or the people who are ghula, the extremists from amongst them. Then you have the second type, which is called murji'atu al-fuqaha. Murji'atu al-fuqaha, who are also murji'ah. They are considered, but they're not like the first group. Murji'atu al-fuqaha, similar to what we'll explain if we have some more time about what happened with Abu Hanifa and what happened in regards to that. If we have some more time, I will explain it, but we have to keep moving. You'll find that the matter pertaining to them, they believe that sins harms your faith. Sins, that it harms your faith. They believe in that completely. The issue is they don't say the wording. The wording. They're saying that Iman is part of faith or what have you. But the implementation of it is there. The implementation of it is there. Where they believe that sins will harm your faith. Sins will render it incomplete. Sins can lead you to kufr. It can lead you to disbelief. It can lead you to it. It can make your heart become black, and it can affect you. It can affect your soul, your heart, your life, your money, everything. However, the shakl is suri, as they say, shaklun suri. As you'll find the great Imam Muhammad Ahmad said, rahimahullah, that the affair is not in the actual, it's in the wording is the problem. Even though the implementation of it is there. So you'll find that they are called murji'atul fuqaha, the murji'ah of some of the scholars of fiqh, where that is a khaf, that is lighter than the first category. That is way lighter. So just to give a simple term of the second group called the murji'ah al-fuqaha, they say قالوا بعدم دخول الأعمال في مسمى الإيمان مع مخالفتهم للمرجئة الغلاة في أن المعاصي تضر فاعلها وأنه يؤاخذ على ذلك ويعاقب وقولهم غير صحيح. To the end of the great Imam Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad mentioned about this, which is correct also. He said they don't mention it as far as the ta'rif, but they do go against the what? The extremists from amongst them, where they do not believe in it. But the affair revolves around the actual what? Definition, that they don't mention it. And the actual wording is the problem. And the wording. Even though, as we said, the implementation is what is there. But the actual problem is in the wording, them saying it. That's the issue that revolves around what they call murji'atu al-fuqaha. They're the second category of the people of irja. And they are lighter than the first category. They are lighter than the first category. Also, from people who pose this ta'rif, let's get to faith increases and what? Decreases. Iman increases and decreases. It increases and decreases. That type of part of the definition who opposes it, or rather, if you want to say the correct definition, goes against the ideologies of the people of Takfir. The people of Takfir, those who are extremists from the radicals, from the people of our religion. Excuse me, everyone. Okay, I'm good now. I thought it cut off. The radicals from amongst our religion, where you'll find that the people of Takfir, or you want to say the radicalists, extremists, or terrorists, back in the days of old, those who fell into major sins was declared kuffar. It was declared kuffar outside the fold of Islam, depending on the ideology of the Mu'tazila or other than them. But the point of the matter is, the people of Takfir, they believe, based upon their conviction, is that faith, it cannot fluctuate. It cannot go up and down. Once you commit a major sin, you're out the fold of Islam. Which clearly states that what everyone, that faith doesn't waver, it doesn't fluctuate. Once you commit a major sin, it's done. So their belief is like an element put together. It's where they say that everything has to be there. And if one element is taken out the equation, then all of it is gone. That's what they believe. However, what rejects that notion is which hadith, everyone? The hadith of the branches. The Prophet ﷺ said what? Faith is how many? Sab'un hadith, where he says, Iman, bid'un wa sab'un shu'ba. In another narration, bid'un wa sittun shu'ba. أعلاها قول لا إله إلا الله وأدناها إماطة الأذى عن الطريق والحياء شعبة من الإيمان. Is the hadith, as we mentioned. The Prophet ﷺ clearly stated what in the narration we covered previously in the last week's class. What the Messenger of Allah state that Iman is what? Branches. That's not the only part of the hadith that refutes it. The Prophet ﷺ said, أدناها, the nearest of it or the least of it. That's a clear wording where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, the least of it, meaning that one's faith that might not be that strong. That what would motivate him to what? Do something of good is to at least remove a harm from the road. To let one know that Iman is of different what? Branches, and that they what? Fluctuate. That even if one is moved out the equation, does not necessitate that all of it is removed. Is it clear? That's what we wanted to mention. So in that example, the affair of takfir is also what? Refuted. And the notion of takfir is rejected through that particular hadith and that wording of the hadith of the branches. So keep in mind, everyone, when a person now, so-called, comes with different types of shubha, some type of doubtful matters, that's the hadith that you use. So the Prophet ﷺ, didn't he say that Iman is branches? And then he said in the last part, saying the least of it, to let you know that if one is taken out the equation, does not mean that all of it is what? All of it is gone. It's still there, but it might be what? Weak. It might be weak. Also, the hadith that rejects the affair of the people of takfir, or if you want to call them the wa'idiyah, what also rejects their notions and their ideologies is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu that you have memorized. I'm sure all of us are acquainted and familiar with the hadith of Arba'in al-Nawawiyah. But the Prophet said, "Man ra'a minkum munkara falyughayyirhu biyadihi, wa in lam yastati' fa bilisanihi, wa in lam yastati' ايش فبقلبه وذلك ايش أضعف الإيمان." That's the wording there. أضعف الإيمان. The Prophet ﷺ is, I'm sure that everyone's familiar with the hadith in Arba'in al-Nawawiyah, which is a book that's very important that everyone needs to memorize. But the Prophet, if one wants to be a bona fide true student of knowledge, he needs to memorize that. That hadith, that Arba'in al-Nawawiyah, the hadith in that book is always used. Always used in all the abwab of the religion, in all the affairs of the religion. You'll find that Arba'in al-Nawawiyah is always used in all those abwab, all those different affairs. طيب. The Prophet said, hadith Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, whoever from amongst you sees a what? Evil, then let him change it with what? His hand. If he can't, then what? With his tongue. And if he can't, then what? Hate it in his heart. But what's the last part of the hadith? What did the Prophet say? That is the weakest of faith. That is the weakest of faith. To let you know that what? Faith what? It fluctuates. It increases and decreases. Certain people are strong in it and some people are what? Weak in it. Certain people are strong in it and certain people are weak in it. Weak in it. It sounds like online. Weak in it. Weak in it. Weak in it. So, based upon that, those are all clear narrations in the authentic sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that faith, just because one element is not removed, or if it's removed, then all of it necessitates it becomes what? Null and void, or becomes nullified. That's not correct. At the same time, the same thing, you'll find these hadith and narrations can also be applied to who, everyone? The people of Irja also. So notice the same narrations that can be utilized for the people of Takfir, it can also be utilized at the same for the opposite side extreme with the people who Irja. Because we said that faith, what? It fluctuates. And the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith of branches talk about what's the what? Lowest and weakest of it. And also the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who also said that is the what? Weakest of faith. Based upon the people of Irja, their belief is no matter what you do, your iman is still what? It's still sound, it's complete. The Prophet ﷺ clearly stated in these narrations that your iman can be harmed by leaving off certain what? Actions. Your iman can be harmed. And it does not remain sound incomplete if you leave it off, or you didn't carry out certain acts that you were supposed to carry out, or you abandoned certain acts, that you also committed certain acts that you were commanded to leave off. So those narrations can be applied for both groups because they both have the same ideology. The people of Takfir say that if it's removed, then what? It's all nullified. Whereas the people of Irja say if all the elements so-called are there, even if it's removed, it's still complete. So they're both on the opposite side of each what? Extreme, even though the ideology is still what? The same. So that's the affair that we wanted to break down in regards to the deviant sects that opposes this, because they are very important. They are very important in regards to a person's Islam being intact and being sound in these days and times. I'm just looking at the time. In these days and times, due to the fact that you'll find that the different doors of deviation is open these days. They're open and the floodgates are open. So that's what we wanted to mention in regards just to enlightening ourselves with some of the deviant sects. Also, you'll find, I'm just going to read a couple of texts before we move on. And also wanted to mention some of the ta'rifat of some of the other ai some of the scholars of our religion before we move on. And some of the other evidences that shows that actions also in the hereafter are proof that your faith fluctuates. And what will be the affair of where one will end up in the hereafter also shows that iman what is of different levels and that they what fluctuate. If you wanted to say generally, I'm just going to get everyone in the class a hint. What is a proof to show in the day of resurrection to show that faith fluctuates? Think. It's easy. Very easy. And think about the affairs of the hereafter, of what will happen in hell and paradise. I can give you guys more hints. Hell and paradise clearly indicates that iman fluctuates, and they're on different levels. I'll raise our hand. Good. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. Give me a little bit more detail.
People gonna be on different levels.
People will be on different levels. Keep going.
Once you memorize Quran, going up the levels for the memorization and recitation.
Keep going. Think about it. Think about everything we discuss on the day of resurrection will happen to the believers and the disbelievers. Okay. Keep going. Thank you. Paradise, hell. He just said it. He just said something that was key. He said, person that recites the Quran, they will, good. They will keep going up levels. Keep going. From the proofs here, now because we gotta things we gotta cover, is the different levels of the dwellers of paradise and the hereafter. People will dwell in paradise, and their level will all be according to what? Their deeds and their level of what? Their level of iman. The level of the iman, which keep in mind, everyone. Keep in mind, the level of iman necessitates also the level of the amount of righteous actions they have, because they're all systematically linked together. They're connected. If your iman is strong, then your deeds are also going to be what? Your righteous actions are also going to be what? Strong. They're linked. There's no way you can have strong faith and then your deeds does not reflect that. They're all systematically what, everyone? Linked and connected. If one who's on a high level of iman, likewise, their actions are going to what? Confirm that. So people are going to be in paradise in the hereafter based upon the level of their iman and based upon the level of their what? Righteous actions. That's the reason why you'll find the Quran. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always pair up in the ayat? Those who believe and work righteous deeds. Notice in the ayat, they're all what? Linked. You'll find a lot of the ayats where Allah links them together. Except those who believe, work righteous deed. Who believe, work righteous deed. Because they're all what? They're linked. If a person's iman is sound, they're also likewise, when it's in accordance with that, their actions are going to be sound. Their actions are going to be what? Sound. That's based upon the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, Ala inna fil jasadi mudgha. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. This is also Arba'in al-Nawawiyah. Again, Hadith Bukhari, even though it's Bukhari. But the Prophet ﷺ said, isn't it not in the body a morsel of flesh? If it's sound, then what? The body will be sound. And if it's corrupt, the rest of the body will be corrupt. What does the meaning of that? And it's the heart. When you see the hadith, what does that mean? Meaning, if your iman is strong in your heart, then the body, meaning what? Actions, your deeds. This is a clear hadith to show clearly what, everyone? That they're what? They are correlated, they're connected, and they're systematically what? They're systematically what? Linked together. They work in a link, in a sequence. They're all systematically linked. All of them. That's what you'll find the great Imam al-Muzani said in his, what we have covered this before, and I'm sure that everyone is familiar with this when we was in Pittsburgh. May Allah preserve those brothers. You'll find that it says in what does it say in the line of what Imam Muzani said? He said, وَهُمَا سِيَّانِ وَنِظَامَانِ وَقَرِينَانِ لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَهُمَا لا إيمان إلا بعمل ولا عمل إلا بإيمان. He said that actions and statements, and of course faith, all of them, سياني ونظاماني وقريناني, they're systematically linked and they're coupled together. You cannot take them apart. Because there's no faith except by what? There's no faith unless there's what? actions. Because the actions confirm the validity of your what? Faith, of how strong it is or what? How weak it is. Is it clear? And you'll find that he even says, rahimallah, the opposite. And there's no actions also except by what? Except by iman. So there's no iman except with what? Actions. And there's no actions except it has to be with what? With iman. They all are systematically what? Coupled and linked together. They can't exist one without the other. Right? The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in the Sunnah that we just mentioned, isn't it not in the body a morsel of flesh? That heart, what's in it, everyone? Iman, and where? I'tiqad, belief. The Prophet ﷺ is stating here in the hadith, isn't it not in the body a morsel of flesh? He's talking about the heart. What's the place of the heart? What's in it? Iman, and also what? I'tiqad. Your iman and your what? And your conviction, your belief. Where's its place? Where's it placed at? So when the message of Allah in that hadith that we just mentioned, he's talking about faith here. Its place. Then the message of Allah ﷺ said that the effect of the soundness of that heart is going to reflect where? Where? In your body parts, meaning in your actions. Where he said in the hadith that if the heart is sound, then the rest of the body will be what? Sound, meaning your actions will be upright also. Meaning your actions will be what? Upright. And if the heart is corrupt, then the what? Rest of the actions will be what? Corrupt. What does that mean? And where? Where? In your actions. So that's to clearly show that these type of hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was clarifying that they are all what? Systematically together, and they work in cohesion, linked together, systematically. So, siyani nidhamani qarinani, as we mentioned. So let's keep going. So let's go back to the affairs of the hereafter. Similar to that, also from the affairs of the hereafter, similar. Also, you can use those narrations to the people of takfir. And also, everyone, keep in mind that the people of takfir forget about the narrations of the hereafter. Now I'll go back to the hereafter again. There will be people in different levels of paradise. Again, based upon what again? Everybody will have achieved high levels of paradise based upon what again? What did we say? Right? No, number one, iman, strong iman. And at the same time, what? Righteous actions. So everybody will have high levels of paradise based upon strong iman. But when you say strong iman, you have to say what? They had strong righteous actions also. There's no way you can say they had strong faith and their deeds, they didn't have any. You understand? People in paradise, those who have high levels, who have achieved high levels of it, did some type of what? Belief, and did some form of a deed that necessitated that they achieve it by that way. Meaning by iman and also what? Righteous actions. So that's the first affair of that refutes the deviant sects of the people of takfir. You understand, everyone? Also, the levels of the people of the hellfire, with iyadha billah. As we know, Jannah is darajat, and hell is what? Darakat. Hell has different levels. Based upon the evil people committed, they will also be on what? Different levels. The hypocrites will be where? In the lowest part. Where you'll find that the people of kufr will also be what? In deep levels, but not like the hypocrites. So they all be based upon what? Different types of levels based upon their rejection of faith. Based upon their rejection of it. There's different levels because of acts they also what? Committed they should not have done. Also, the lightest part, if you want to say, or another hellfire of people who died, and this is from the strongest refutations, will let you know that this definition of faith is correct by Ahl Sunnah, and it refutes the people of takfir, where the Prophet ﷺ said, of those are the people from the believers who will be in the hellfire temporarily. And that they will be commanded of those who had an atom's weight of faith, they will be brought of the hellfire. That also shows how faith, it can be weak, but just because people did not fully carry out the acts they were supposed to do, but that Adam's way of faith saved them from being in hell forever, which is from the greatest refutations against the people of what? Takfir. It's from the greatest forms. That just because they didn't do certain acts did not necessitate now they have to be dwellers of hell forever. Even though they will have to be what? Punished for a certain time, where they're purified from it, and then they will be what? Removed. Yeah, and that you'll find that the different levels of the people of paradise, and the different levels of the people of hell, and the believers from the people of the Qibla who died in that state, also that will be brought out, are not refutation, but evidences and refutations, both. Evidences and refutations, both. And it puts in perspective the sound definition of the people of the Sunnah. It puts it in actual perfect perspective. That actions are what? Done with the tongue. Action with the tongue, belief with the heart, action with faith, and actions are from faith, and it fluctuates. It goes up and it what? Goes down. A person might say, what's the dalil? The hadith of the Shu'bah, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud that we mentioned, Arba'in Nawawiyah, and the affairs of the hereafter, of the dwelling places of the people of hell, or paradise first, and the people of hell, and the most strongest of refutations of that is those who died from the believers, and what? They'll be brought out. Which is to let you know that they had faith, but it was what? It was weak. They had faith, but it was weak. Because their actions did not what? Confirm it. Or they came up very short in their actions. That necessitated they had to be punished. Then as a result of it, ultimately they were what? They were taken out. You get it, everyone? So that's the reason why we say that those are matters to establish that Iman, but just to keep it simple, it fluctuates. Your Iman, your faith fluctuates. And that's the reason why you'll find that from the most important of affairs in your life is to always investigate your what? Your faith, to investigate it, to check it. So you know what? How's my faith with my Lord? What's the first thing you check if you want to see if your faith is sound? Checking your actions. If you want to check to see if your Iman is strong, nobody prays 2 rakats. Don't forget 2 rakats before you sit. 2 rakats before you sit. Tahiyyat al-Masjid. That's from the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ commanded that. Fine. So you'll find, everyone, that if one wants to check their level of Iman, if you want to know it and put it in proper perspective, you put the chair from front of him. If you can reach it. I think it's time for you then. How many minutes is left? Like 2 minutes? 15 seconds? Oh, okay. What? It came, is it in? You sure? Oh, khalas. I cannot find it. Huh? Is it raining outside? Okay. Nice. It's raining outside?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it is raining outside. Nice. Nice. It's raining real bad, huh? Nice. Right. So what we were saying, so these are the things that the narrations that we wanted to present in order to let one know that deeds in the hereafter, especially the conditions of the people in the hereafter, are clearly affairs that establish that iman that it fluctuates. And like we said, connected with how the affairs will happen in the hereafter based upon the levels of each party, meaning the party of paradise and the party of hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us refuge from being from its inhabitants. Their levels are based upon their strength of iman and also, like we said, the abundance of their righteous actions. And that the people who are weak in their iman, that some of them had to be punished in the hellfire, meaning you'll find that some of the ulama, they call it Narul Muwahhideen. Narul Muwahhideen. The hellfire of the people of Tawheed. The hellfire of the people of Tawheed. What does that mean? Meaning the people who died with sound faith, they believed in Islam, and that type of hellfire is not an everlasting imprisonment for them. But however, it's a form of purification for them. It'll be a form of purification for them where they have to be purified of certain acts that they did not make tawbah from. They might have committed an act, but they did not make proper repentance from it. Where they strive to abandon it and leave it and start doing what's correct and pleasing to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might overlook it. And at the same time, Allah might what? Punish them for it. They'll be under the will of Allah. تحت مشيئة الله. إما أن يغفر الله من أول وهلة وإما أن يعذبهم في النار وإذا عذبهم في النار فلا يخلدهم فيها خالدا مخلدا أبدا. لن يخلدهم في ذلك. So you'll find that He might overlook them من أول وهلة, from the beginning. Allah might pardon them. Or يقيد لهم الشفاعة, شفاعة الشافعين. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow them, فَيُسْعِفُهُمْ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وَيُقَيِّدُ لَهُمْ شَفَاعَةَ الشَّافِعِينَ. Or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will link and couple for them the intercession for those who will what? Intercede for them. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might what? Might punish them. And if they die from the people of Qibla, from the people of Islam, they'll be in the hellfire of the people of Tawheed, where it will be a form of purification for them. Then they will be what? They'll be removed from it. All of those are narrations that clearly show that iman, what everyone, keep in mind while we're mentioning these narrations, what's the reason that iman what? It fluctuates. Some people are strong in it, and some people are what? They're weak in it. Certain people are strong in it, certain people are weak in it. What confirms the reality of one's faith? Where? In people's actions. Your actions confirm the validity or the strength or the weakness of your faith. So if one wants to know their faith and how they are with Allah, look to your actions. Look to your amal. That is the clear indication, the measuring stick of how you are. And it will put in perspective your iman and the level of it. Based upon, like we said, your productivity and your diligence and righteous actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who are diligent in righteous actions, working in accordance with sound faith. We have a couple more minutes and then we'll stop, inshallah. I'll read quickly what Ahl al-Ilm say about this, some of these narrations. والمؤمنون في الإيمان يتفاضلون ومن الأدلة على ذلك قول الله تعالى ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا فمنهم ظالم لنفسه ومنهم مقتصد ومنهم سابق بالخيرات بإذن الله. The ayah, which is Surah Ibrahim, Surah Fatir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then we inherited the book of those who we chosen from amongst our servants. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala generally named them all of his what? Servants. He named three groups. That's from his servants. From them that oppress their souls, oppress themselves. From them who are those who are muqtasid, meaning they did the mandatory acts, but they didn't do much of what is what? Voluntary. Then you have, or they didn't do anything voluntary at all. Then you have the third group, those who set out to be the first and foremost of good deeds, meaning they did what was mandatory, and they did what was voluntary to the best of their ability, and they avoided the what? The evil actions, especially the major sins. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned all three. The point of the matter is to let one, all this ayah, what is it an indication, everyone? That faith, it increases, and it what? And that everyone is on different what? Levels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself said, from amongst those who Allah will give paradise is who oppressed himself, where he might have to be punished in hell temporarily. Meaning, the hellfire, the people of Tawheed first. But they will be brought out, and then they will be what? Put in paradise. Right, everyone? We keep in mind the affair of the hellfire. Nobody wants to be in it temporarily. The narrations of some of the affairs of the hereafter, it's not like this world. Temporarily in the hellfire could be 50,000 years. You understand, everyone? It could be 50,000. So affairs that say, oh, temporary in hell, that's nothing, that's major. Nobody wants to be in hell temporarily. Those affairs, everyone, of what we're mentioning, those type of narrations and those verses clearly shows that faith, what? People on different levels. And it shows when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, from amongst them who oppress themselves, to let one know that that refutes the claims of who? The people of Takfir. Where they say that major sins will remove you from the fold of Islam. What did Allah himself say? He said, from amongst those who we have given the book, inherited proper guidance, from amongst them are who? What did Allah say in the first part of the ayah? Who oppress themselves. So that is to let you know that that ideology is rejected by Rabbul Alameen himself. Allah himself rejected it. Even though they will have to be what? Perhaps punished before they enter paradise. We'll stop here because we're about to call the I'm sorry, everyone. We have to stop here, inshallah. Any questions about the lesson? It's still raining? Follow.
Does the hypocrites being lowered than a regular Catholic in the hellfire mean that Allah hates them more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mentioned this last class. No, I mentioned this last. Why are the hypocrites in the lowest part of hell, everyone? Why?
Because they believed and then disbelieved.
Some of them believed, then disbelieved, and some of them didn't believe at all from the beginning. But the point of the matter is, why is nifaq why is hypocrisy deserving of this high level of a punishment? What's the reason? Absolutely. I'll say it quickly because we got to finish because we got to pray. Number one is, just like our brother said, number one is some of them believe and then they what? Disbelieve. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Munafiqun. He said, that is because they what? ذلك بأنهم آمنوا ثم كفروا فطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون وإذا رأيتهم تعجبك أجسامهم إن يقولوا تسمع لقولهم كأنهم خشب مسندة يحسبون كل صيحة عليهم هم العدو فاحذرهم قاتلهم الله أن يؤفكون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Al-Munafiqun, what does it say? He said that is because they believe and then they what? Disbelieve. And a seal was put on their heart. So they will never understand. Meaning they will never be what? Rightly guided, even though they hear and they see it. But the actual affair of penetration of the faith, they will never what? They will never receive it where they will be rightly guided. That's one reason. Another reason, some of them they did not what? Believe it at all. They just tried to blend in with the Muslims because they wanted to benefit from its protection and from its merits and its benefits. That's another affair. Another affair, we mentioned this was key from last lesson. We said this last class. One of the reasons why the hypocrites will receive this tremendous punishment, wal-iyadu billah, is because they came and they impersonated the Muslims. So what they did is they tried to destroy them from within. They tried to destroy them from within. Is it clear? And I wouldn't be so surprised that there's people working for the feds coming up amongst the Salafis and tearing them apart from within either. I wouldn't find it far off. And if Allah exposed it, I wouldn't be surprised. That there was people that was working for the non-Muslims that come in the ranks of the Salafis and trying to destroy them from within. I would not be surprised if it got exposed. But at any rate, the affair of what's pertaining to the hypocrites, everyone, is this. That the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them this punishment, because the inside enemy that sounds like you, looks like you, impersonates you, resembles how you talk, how you look, how you disseminate the same books and everything, sounds exactly like you. And destroying you from within is worse than the what? Outside enemy. Because they're tearing you up. It's just like the person who coming in your house and acting like blending in like they with you. Like, I'm your family, I'm with you. Then they just try to destroy you within your household. They are more dangerous than the what, everyone? Than the outside enemy. Who is clear who they look like. Their identity is clear, what they look like is clear, how they speak is clear. It's clear. You're the enemy, you're the outside. Everyone knows it's distinct between me and what? Between me and you. However, a person, when they impersonate, they sound like you, look like you, talk like you, to the end of it, they're more dangerous upon the Muslims than who? Than the non-Muslim. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them this what? This type of punishment. You get it? Now you understand? Okay, what's the last one? We're going to pray. We got people waiting.
What was the hadith that you mentioned as a dalil for the actions of that followed the iman?
Say it again.
What was the hadith that you mentioned as a proof for the actions that follow the level of iman?
What was it? Abdullah bin Mas'ud, right?
No, it wasn't that one.
Which one was it?
The third one. You said something about the heart.
Oh, that hadith. It's Arba'in al-Nawawiyah. It's right there, isn't it? It's right there under the desk. It's still there. Stop making me. Somebody took it? Don't worry about it. But at any rate, the hadith is the Prophet said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Leave it. We're about to pray. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah inna fil jasadi mudghah. إذا صلح صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسد فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. That hadith that you're talking about, there's a morsel of flesh within the body that if it's sound, then the body will be sound. You talking about that? That's it. That's an Arba'in Nawawi. But anyway, the Prophet ﷺ in that hadith, which is an Arba'in Nawawi, he said there's a morsel of flesh within the body. He's talking about the heart. The heart, which is what place where mahallu ish, iman wa i'tiqad. That your heart is the place where faith. Notice the message of Allah combined it between both again in the hadith. He combined between what? Iman and also what? Actions in the hadith. He linked them together. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, is it not in the morsel of in the body, a morsel of flesh? If it's sound, meaning if your belief is sound and your i'tiqad is sound, that the body will be what? Sound. What does that mean, the body? Meaning in your actions that you perform. And if the heart is corrupt, meaning the heart does not have iman, or it is weak, or it's affected by sins or what have you, where is it going to reflect upon? Where, everyone? The actions. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا فَسَدَ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If the heart is corrupt, then the body parts will be corrupt, meaning the actions also will be corrupt. Which is to let you know that the actions reflect your what? Your faith. And that they are also on different levels. All right, we'll stop here, inshallah, because we got to pray. We got people waiting. Anything else, anyone? It depends on what type of deed they committed. It depends. If they left off the affairs of zakah, that could be 50,000 years. If they fell into killing someone, that could be also the same amount of years or more. For the person that leaves off zakat, the hadith of the Prophet said, يَسْيَبْقَ فِي النَّارِ 50,000 سَنَةً 50,000 في النار. Na'iyadhu billah. That's affairs of just zakat. What about salat? Person that didn't pay zakat, didn't pay alms to the poor, 50,000 years in the hellfire? That's temporary. You understand? What about the salat? What about the prayer? But like we said, it depends on the action and whether or not the person made proper tawbah from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His infinite mercy, like we said, three things can happen. Either Allah might pardon them and overlook it, or Allah will give them the shafa'ah, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might punish them in what they call narul muwahhideen, the hellfire of the people of Tawheed, meaning it's a form of what? Purification for them. Or another form of purification is the punishment of the grave. The punishment of the grave is also a form of purification for the believer. The Prophet ﷺ, when he walked by the grave of those two men, they were people from his ummah. When he walked by those men, he said, هَذَانِ يُعَذَّبَانِ وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ فَدَلَّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّهُمَا كَانَا مِنْ أُمَّةِ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, when he passed by the two graves of two people who were being punished in the grave, the Prophet ﷺ said, these two are being punished, but they're not being punished for something big. One of the narrations said that the meaning of the word big, meaning is something they could have avoided. It wasn't a burden for them not to avoid it, but they did it anyway. But notice the message of Allah ﷺ said that they was from his ummah and they were being what? Being punished. He says, كَانَ أَحَدُهُمَا لَا يَسْتَتِرُ مِنْ بَوْلِهِ وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ فَكَانَ يَمْشِي بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالنَّمِيمَةِ. He said, for one of the two, he said that they used to what? Keep himself cleansed from the urine, but there's another meaning. As Sheikh Abul Abbas told me a couple of weeks ago, may Allah preserve him, he said, one of the meanings of the hadith is that he used to have himself exposed improperly. That's one of the narrations, that's one of the meanings the ulama mentioned of the urine. Like revealing his outer, revealing his private part. Similar to how people do when they stand up and urine in the urinals in the bathroom. That's exposing yourself improper. You're not supposed to have your pants down so people can see your outer while you're urinating. You're not supposed to do that. You understand? Our religion is a religion of purity and manners. Even when you go to the bathroom, people are not supposed to see you. You understand? So the affairs pertaining to, that's one of the narrations of the meeting. So the Prophet ﷺ, the point of the matter is they were being what? Punished, even though they were what? From his ummah. And he said that the other one was who? The one that used to go between the people spreading what? Spreading tail carrying, meaning what? Putting one person and putting them up against another person and going back and forth between them. To plant the seed of division and cause division amongst them. The point of the matter is, will those people be punished forever? No. We say that anyone who died from the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the punishment of the grave for them is a form of what? Purification. And eventually it will what? Stop. But the point of the matter is they will have to be what? Punished and purified. Get it? Let me stop here. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.